Children, it is a continuation of the chapter friction. Now let us solve the exercise based question. The first question is fill in the blanks. First one of that first main is friction opposes the dash between the surfaces in contact with each other. We know that friction opposes the motion between the surfaces in contact with each other. That is nothing but the relative motion. So you write the answer relative motion. Friction opposes the relative motion between the surfaces in contact with each other. Then second one B, friction depends on the dash of the surfaces. In the blanks what we have to write here, you know that friction depends on the nature of the surfaces, or also you can write the roughness or irregularities or smoothness, and generally we can write nature of the surfaces. Nature of surfaces. Next, so let us write friction produces heat. Friction produces heat. Then the next one D, sprinkling of powder on the carom board dash friction. Know that to reduce the friction while playing the carom board, we are using the powder. We are sprinkling the powder on the carom board. So, you know the purpose of sprinkling the powder on the carom board, that is to reduce the friction. So, what you can write here, sprinkling of powder on the carom board reduces friction. So, you write reduces friction. Then sliding friction is dash than static friction. You know that sliding friction is smaller than static friction. So, you write smaller. Sliding friction is smaller than the static friction. Smaller than the static friction. Now the second main question is 4 children were asked to arrange forces due to rolling, starting and sliding friction in a decreasing order. Their arrangements are given below. Choose the correct arrangement. First one is rolling, starting, sliding. B, rolling, sliding, static. C, static, sliding, rolling. D, sliding, static, rolling. Here we have to write the forces due to friction in decreasing order. Rolling friction, static friction and rolling friction, static friction and sliding friction in decreasing order. So we have to start from the maximum to maximum. So you know that static friction is maximum, then the sliding friction, and both are more than the rolling friction. So you can write the answer here C, static, sliding, rolling. So the answer is, right? Answer C, static, sliding, rolling. Static, sliding, rolling. This is the answer. Next, third question. Alida runs her toy car on dry marble floor, wet marble floor, newspaper and also on towel spread on the floor. The force of friction acting on the toy car on different surfaces in increasing order will be. Here toy car. So toy car is made to run on the marble floor. and wet marble floor, that is dry marble floor and wet marble floor, and on newspaper and on towel spread on the floor. And we have to write the force of friction acting on the car or different surfaces in increasing order. So here you have to start from the lesser to more. So which is the options are here: wet marble floor, dry marble floor, newspaper and towel. Second, newspaper, towel, dry marble floor, wet marble floor. C, towel, newspaper, dry marble floor, wet marble floor. And D, wet marble floor, dry marble floor, towel, newspaper. So the answer is A. Here you know that we have to write the friction in increasing order. Wet marble floor exert least force of friction. Next dry, next newspaper, and towel causes more friction. The force of friction is more on the towel spread on the floor. So here you write the option A, then you write the answer. The option A, wet marble floor, dry marble floor, newspaper, and towel. Wet marble floor, dry marble floor, newspaper and towel, that is in the increasing order of the friction. Then the next question, what is that? Fourth question. Suppose your writing desk is tilted a little. A book kept on it starts sliding down. Show the direction of frictional force acting on it. So book is kept on the desk which is tilted little and book starts sliding down. If book starts sliding down, the frictional force acts in its opposite direction of the sliding, so it must be upward. As the book slides down, the force of friction must be in its opposite direction, means it must be in the opposite direction, that must be in the upward direction. So frictional force will act upward, that is the direction opposite to that of sliding book. So write the answer. Frictional force will act upward, that is in the direction opposite to the sliding of book. So book is sliding towards down, so the frictional force must acting upon it to oppose its motion, that is in upward direction. Then the fifth question, you spill a bucket of soapy water on a marble floor accidentally. Would it make it easier or more difficult for you to walk on the floor? Why? You know that the layer of soap makes the floor smooth, due to which the friction is reduced. Due to the layer of soap, the smoothness of the floor increases and the friction reduces. This makes the floor slippery and the foot cannot make a proper grip on the floor. So it is difficult to walk on a soapy floor and there is a chance of slipping on the floor. So you write the answer that if we spilled a bucket of soapy water on a marble floor accidentally, the layer of soap makes the layer of soap makes the floor smooth due to which the friction is reduced. Due to which the friction is reduced. Friction is reduced. This makes the floor slippery and the foot cannot make a proper grip on the floor. And the foot cannot make a proper grip on the floor. Therefore, it is difficult to walk. Therefore, it is difficult to walk on a soapy floor. Soapy floor. We may slip on the floor. We may slip on the floor. Explain why sportsmen use shoes with spikes. While playing or running, there must be a grip between the foot of the player and the surface, and if he uses shoes with smooth surfaces, there will be no grip for playing or running. In that case, what he will do, sportsmen use shoes with spikes to increase the friction between shoes and the surface. So the shoes with spike do not slip while the sportsmen run and play. Sportsmen, so you write the answer here. Sportsmen use shoes with spikes to increase the friction between the shoes and the surface. So the shoes with spikes, shoes with spikes avoids slipping on the ground while the sportsmen run and play. So sportsmen use shoes with spikes to increase the friction. So if there is no friction, if there is smoothness between the surface of the shoes and the ground, so he can't play properly. Now the seventh question. The question is, Iqbal has to push a lighter box and Seema has to push a similar heavier box on the same floor. Who will have to apply a larger force and why? Here the answer is clear. Seema will have to apply a larger force. Why? You know that as the weight and mass increases, the pressing on the surface also increases. As the pressing increases, the friction increases. So Seema will have to apply larger force to move the heavier box. So you take the answer here as the weight of the object increases, weight of the object increases, pressing against the surface also increases. Surface also increases. So heavier object produces more friction. So heavy objects produces more friction. So Seema will have to apply a larger force. Here the answer is Seema will have to apply a larger force. Why? Means as the force weight of the object increases, pressure against the surface also increases. So heavy object produces more friction. So Seema will have to apply a large force. That is the answer. Next let us explain. You know that more force is required to overcome friction at the instant an object starts moving from rest. But when the object starts sliding, the contact points on its surface do not get enough time to lock into the contact points on the floor. So the sliding friction is slightly smaller than the static friction. So you write more force is required. More forces required to overcome friction at the instant an object starts moving from rest. When the object starts moving or sliding, when the object starts sliding, the contact points on its surface the contact point on its surface do not get enough time to lock into the contact points on the floor. On the floor. So the sliding friction is less than static friction. Static friction. Give examples to show that friction is both a friend and foe. You know that friction is having many advantages and disadvantages. Because of its advantages, friction is a friend, and because of its disadvantages, it is a foe. Now, friction as a friend. So, what are the advantages of friction? So, it is a friend. So, friction as a friend. Friction helps in handling the object. Without friction, we can't handle the objects. So, friction gives the grip to handle the objects. Without friction, no building can be constructed. To construct the building, friction is required. Friction helps in standing, walking, and running. Friction gives the grip between the foot and the surface of the floor or road. Then we can stand, walk, and run easily. And friction helps in movement of vehicles. Friction also helps in writing. Friction brings the grip between the pen and the paper so that we can write on a paper with the help of pen and pencil. Now, friction as a foe. You know that friction is also having many disadvantages to make it our foe. First one, friction causes wear and tear of moving parts of machinery, soles of shoes, etc. Friction produces heat, causing wastage of energy in machines. It causes damage to the parts of machines and tools which further require money to get them repaired. Friction reduces speed of moving objects, so more force is required. So, friction is a foe. Next 10th question, that is the last question here. Explain why objects moving in fluids must have special shapes. You know that when objects move through fluids, they have to overcome friction acting on them. In this process, they lose energy. So, efforts are therefore made to minimize frictions. So, objects are given special shapes. Right, objects moving in the fluids. Objects moving in the fluids have to overcome friction acting on them. Overcome friction acting on them. In this process, they lose energy. Therefore, to minimize friction, objects are given special shape. Objects are given special shapes called streamlining. That is by comparing the shape of birds and fishes, You know that birds and fishes can move easily in the fluid. Their bodies must have evolved to shape which would make them lose less energy in the overcoming friction.